At their various destinations, a loading certificate is to be issued prior to the distribution of the commodity to the IDPs by a federal government committee saddled with the responsibility. The Kaduna-Katsina Customs Area Controller Olushemire Kayode said the action is part of the directives from the presidency to the IDPs across the country. He credited the seizure to the commitment of men and officers of the command, coupled with advocacies to the traditional rulers.
The capacity building to get the best value in agriculture has to begin from infantry.
They are of the view that the gross domestic product of the country should experience a geometric progression if institutions collaborate to make agriculture the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. In Ado-Ekiti, Michael Olaleye, NTA News.
Activities that will connect us to the nature, that is our environment where we live. And the following year, there was a conference on human settlement in Stockholm. That was the first World Environment Day all over the world. But the Earth Day was 2 years before. That led to the establishment, that is enactment of the Clean Air Act and Clean Water Act. And most people, that was a wake-up call for people to know. In Nigeria here, the same thing. The interest in that happens to be the time I was working on my PhD thesis on groundwater contamination. Now, if that radioactive waste was buried at that aquifer, once the aquifer is poisoned, everybody would drink products from that brewery will be irradiated. They could have cases of leukemia and all sorts of terrible things. So we made up, and the Minister of External Affairs then, General Ikechukwu then, we started crying that it was wrong for the developed countries to do this, only to be told, because the activities of some students in Italy who were sensitized to the fact that in your own country, there are 4,000 tons of toxic and radioactive waste in cocoa. Some members of the Green Party in the region of Tuscany in Italy translated what the mafia were bragging, that they are now ecologists. They will collect the waste supposed to be disposed of with about $2,000, and with only $100, they will ship it to third world countries, and the people will collect it and there. So that was a wake-up call that led to the establishment of the Federal Environmental Protection Agency in December 1988 by the Decree 58.
All right, Dr. Victor, thank you very much for that background there. Now, taking a look at this year's team, are people doing enough to protect the environment?
I will say that it is a very sad story. The connection between our actions and our responsibility is not there. Let me give you an example. A person who wants to describe his house and say, if you are going along that cocoa close, maybe the road is cocoa close, number 24 there, you will see a huge pile of rubbish. Next to it is my house. Nobody ever wants to say that there's a bomb in a place and that's where my house is, because any waste dump is like a time bomb. It is where you gather cockroaches, you gather rats, you gather a lot of vectors that come back to visit you. The open defecation, if people know the implication of open defecation, that what they defecate, the flies will take and visit on their food, and they will start talking about runny stomach, cholera, typhoid, and all diseases. Everything has consequences. This is the age of consequences. Nigerians are not, the awareness of this thing is less than 1%. And I want to really commend what NTA is doing and the media to bring to the forefront of our environmental responsibility, that whatever we do to this environment, just like the man in Seattle said, all things are connected. Whatever you do to this environment, humankind is just like a web of life. Whatever you do to one part of it will visit back to you. There is what is called ecosystem, and there's a need to maintain an equilibrium so that your activities should not exceed the carrying capacity of the environment. The air quality is there. If you overload it with so much pollution, you cry of asthma, you cry of diseases, indoor air pollution, people who cook with ineffective cook stove. About 135,000 women and children die every year in Nigeria from indoor air pollution. They are not aware of the implication of cooking with those smoke in them because they want to taste food with firewood. But the impact on the health is not known. The impact on the economy is also not known. They do not relate it that when you are sick, you can't go to the market because what is causing your sickness is the rubbish that is there. When you have flood, that when you dump your waste inside your drains in the drainage system that is supposed to move the water during rainfall, it's going to cause flood and whatever properties you have is lost. So there is a need to raise up a national awareness program. And I want to really say that the media houses and one institution that need to work together with the Federal Ministry of Environment is NOA. Sometime last year, I mentioned that to them that they have people in all the several and several local government. There's a need because there's a lot to gain by being environmentally responsible. There's a need for us because the environment itself is like an enterprise which has been given to us by our children so that we make sure that the capital is not depleted and we can return it to our children's children with some interest in the air quality, soil, water, whatever it is that they will be able to praise us.
All right, just before we go on, let's talk about environmental challenges in Nigeria and their attendant this year's theme.
It's like a very, very good coincidence because climate change does not happen in the moon. It's not happened in the cosmic world. It happens in the environment. So the nature, the environment, which is our God-given endowment, endowed support system. Whatever we do, we must recognize the fact that man, when the industrialization began around the 1850s, they discovered coal, they discovered oil, and plus all the activities of burning anything that can release these greenhouse gases. Because when you look at climate itself, the climate change, you talk about it, the whole planetary system is unlivable. The Earth is the only place where you can live. We don't have to carry our oxygen mask along like some other planets. The reason is because when Almighty God created the world, there are 6 gases that are meant to trap. When the sun strikes on the surface of the Earth, it is not completely reflected like other planets. That's why it's not livable. The temperature is below degrees centigrade. So the Earth is the place where these gases meant to trap some of this heat. But because of industrialization, we now began to load the atmosphere with these gases like carbon dioxide, methane, oxides of nitrogen. Also, some of the chemicals that we have sort of manufactured that deplete the ozone layer, chlorofluorocarbons. So it is only then that we see that when we load this, unless the action that was done in Paris Agreement was to lower and to reduce so that the Earth does not warm more than 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees centigrade in the Paris Agreement. And the president did Nigeria proud by not only signing it, we submitted our instrument of ratification about 3 weeks ago.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Victor. I wish we could have more time so that you could shed more light into this issue. It's been a pleasure. And I've been talking to Dr. Victor Fodeke, the Director General, Africa Clean Energy Summit. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, and I wish everybody to do something to protect the environment. Plant a tree, switch off your light, and change to a source of energy that is clean, like solar, like wind, that will save the planet and save us.
Thank you very much, sir.
We return the environment to our children with interest. Thank you.
You can watch these news live online via the NTA mobile app, which you can download on your Android device at the Google Play Store or the Apple Store if you use devices with iOS. Now let's pause for some messages. Panorama returns shortly. Stay with us.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Together, no matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion. Men will Nigeria, good people, great nation.
Many thanks for being there, and if you're just joining us, this is NTA News Panorama. The FCT administration in the last 2 years has processed and given out over 1,000 certificates of occupancy to landowners having sanitized the land administration procedure in the nation's capital. Director Abuja Geographic Information System Aegis Issa Jallo, while briefing the media in Abuja as part of FCT activities commemorating 2 years of Buhari administration, said the FCT administration now generates an average of 50 million naira daily from land administration alone. Mitari Ikben reports.
The director of Aegis, Issa Jallo, and his counterpart in land administration, Adamu Jibril, noted that the problems of land racketeering and double or multiple land allocation have drastically reduced in Abuja following the constitution of the Land Use Allocation Committee by the FCT minister, which has resolved over 500 cases of land disputes. During the period under review, 24 staff of Aegis.
Sorry about the abrupt ending of that report. Moving on, 64 inmates in prisons across Nasarawa State have regained their freedom. Joshua Ojito reports that a nursing mother was among the freed inmates whose fines of 5 million naira was paid by Governor Umar Tanko Almakura.
Freedom courtesy of the prerogative of mercy by Governor Umaru Tanko Almakura could not hide her joy after being pronounced free.
There is nothing you can give to a human being in this world like freedom. Once you give a person freedom, it is left to him to make his living worthwhile.
Today marks my final day that I will sleep in Kepi prison. I'll be with my people today.
The freed inmate, whose fines of 5 million naira was also paid by the state governor, have been encouraged to be of good behavior as they reunite with their families. Currently, a total of 1,666 inmates are serving their jail terms in various prisons across the state, out of which 608 have been convicted, while 1,058 are on remand. The action by Governor Almakura is part of government commitment to decongest prisons across the state. During the visit of the governor to Lafia prison, he announced a donation of 1,000 beddings in addition to food items and medicaments worth over 1 million naira to the prisons for upkeep of inmates, even as he donated 500,000 naira as transport fares for the freed inmates. Meanwhile, Governor Almakura also extended his benevolence to a physically challenged person in Lafia who is a renowned mechanic, as he donated a tricycle to him. In Lafia, Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
And talking security now, as part of commitment to the counter-insurgency operations, the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, has visited the Air Force Base Yola to access the facilities on ground. Correspondent Riyanu Bala reports.
The Chief of Air Staff, who was represented by the Chief of Training and Operations, Air Vice Marshal Abubakar Iya, inspected the newly acquired Mi-35N helicopters for the ongoing counter-insurgency operations in the northeast. He was also at the completed gas plant, which provides adequate gas to the helicopters and even supply it to the hospitals whenever the need arises. The representative of the Chief of Air Staff expressed satisfaction with the progress work at the new tarmac, which is expected to complement the one on ground. He therefore called for necessary support from the public in the fight against insurgency.
We are here to look at the entire operation area and look at if there are issues anywhere, and we brief the Chief of Air Staff when we go back. We expect the Nigerians to continue to support us, to provide whatever information that is required to help us tackle the insurgency. From all indications, we can all attest to the fact that a lot has been done. very little is remaining, and we expect Nigerians to be with us all the time.
Inyola, Rayanu Bala, NTA News.
And now to sports. 1 draw and 8 home wins in week 22 of Nigeria Professional Football League as Italy and Zambia play third quarter-final match of FIFA Under-20 World Cup on Monday. Amanzi Marcus reports.